everyone. Welcome back to the Chiefly Football Podcast. I am the underqualified host, Kinloch, and joining me virtually from the heart of Chiefs Kingdom is Dave.
This is exciting. It's the draft is a week away. So
after going over the, incoming players, outgoing players, going into the draft, when we're going to start filling in more of our roster, what are some positions of need that you feel like the Chiefs have? And I mean, you can give all of them. You can give the ones just that you feel like are the most important, or if there's a position that you feel like, maybe some people think that it's stronger than it is, or vice versa. What are your thoughts on what the Chiefs need going into the draft and concluding free agency?
It's hard because like a lot of what we look at is based on what the rest of the AFC West has done, right? We see it seems that a lot of, whether it's the Broncos, the Chargers, even the Raiders to an extent, have worked to improve. And it feels like they've closed that gap, which was already it felt like it was getting smaller and smaller. Even though we'd won 6 straight AFC West championships. And with all the additions and changes and acquisitions that they've made, it feels like with the Chiefs not doing a whole lot of that all of a sudden we're in trouble everywhere. It's definitely, right now we're a weaker team than we were last year, just with the losses that we've had. So, Veach talked about it. He talked about, the draft capital that we have. And it was really one of the reasons that, as Tyreek's price point went up, that they recognized, they really couldn't afford him once Tyreek was determined to be the highest paid wide receiver, period. But by going, as you mentioned, by going and capturing that draft capital from the Dolphins was a tremendous haul. It's, we've got 2 number ones, we got 2s, we got 3s, we got 4. The seasons before, how often were we waiting on day 2 before the Chiefs were really going to do anything in the draft? This time we get to pay attention Thursday night to see what's going on. Now there could be some movement, but even Veach mentioned today he doesn't see anything huge taking us into the 10th round, or I'm sorry, into the top 10. But he also said in his news conference today, you can't believe anything that general managers are saying right now. So
that's absolute truth. Come draft, don't believe anything anyone says.
No, because they're all, it really is. But you put 2 and 2 together on some of the things. There's one of the best ways to improve your defense is to have a pass rush, and we haven't had that, and it hurt us last year as well. It even impacted us, against the Bengals when where we just couldn't consistently get pressure on Burrows, but we couldn't even get it on previous ones. And now that even in the AFC, the quarterbacks that are coming in, we've got to be able to put pressure on those defense. So to me, an edge rusher is huge, but not just, it's got to be an impactful edge rusher. It just can't be an edge rusher. We need corner. We still even need linebacking help as well. Like you mentioned, we've lost depth at safety. As much as Sorensen was maligned, the previous years he was certainly serviceable in that role when he was able to function to his strengths. So on defense, I'd like to see an impactful edge rusher, whether it's in the draft or somewhere, because if we have pressure on the quarterback, that makes everything better. That makes our defensive, that makes the defensive backs look better. No pass rush Well, we've already seen what that does last year. That would be it. I would love to see a receiver come in and make an impact, different than what we have. But I don't know that we're going to get a true number one receiver. I think Mahomes is going to have to turn somebody into a number one receiver. And then he's going to go get paid someplace else. And people realize, wait a minute, he wasn't, he was invented by Mahomes. So that goes back to kind of what we alluded to before. What about you? What are your, and then just plethora. I mean, I love that we have so many draft picks. If we don't trade anything, that we take advantage of those salaries, that as long as they're able to contribute, that can keep our window open, especially as we go into next year and the year after with Mahomes. That keeps it open. If we're able to get a lot of really good quality people in there, that strengthens us, and then that frees up the money to be able to go get a big name person if you needed to. I don't know about necessarily this year, but definitely next year. Then you're, the Chiefs, for as much success, 4 consecutive AFC playoff teams, and we have this many drafts. Are you kidding me? That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it doesn't often work out that way for teams, because I mean, there's so many things that are kind of unique about this Chiefs team. One, the fact that they've been to the AFC Championship 4 years in a row. That's kind of sustained success outside of the Patriots hasn't really been seen. And the NFL is built to tear down the best teams. And so, Chiefs fans shouldn't be surprised when they see other AFC teams, especially in our division that we've been beating down for the last 4 years, start to close the gap because they're getting better. And then it's hard for us to stay ahead because we just have a bunch of players who, have played well and looked good on one of the best teams in the NFL. And so they're going to get opportunities to make more money on other teams. So it's really hard to keep everybody for that length of time. You just kind of have to hope that you can keep your core players intact. And so, like you said, the fact that they have so many draft picks this season, was it 4 in the top 100, and then there's another one like three picks later. So, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity here for the Chiefs. And then just something I wanted to point out that's, good to know, I think, going into the draft is we have 2 first-round picks, 2 2s, and 2 3rds. But the first and second round, when teams are drafting players in those rounds, they expect them to be starters that season. So, if the Chiefs are picking the people that they value at those times, then you should be getting four starters, or definitely 4 solid contributors even in year 1. And then the 3rd round is more, maybe another year, and they'll develop into a solid starter, and then down on throughout the draft. So,
well, with Veach's track record, I trust 3rd, 4th. I trust those later round ones often more than the first, than this, than a McCall Hardman or something like that. So, yeah, you're dead on. I mean, if in a perfect world, how would you feel if we didn't make any trades or anything, and we, in those first 2 rounds, we had 4 people that were starting on a returning AFC Championship team?
That would be fantastic. I mean, that's what.
That's like,
yeah, I mean, that's
right?
what you want. And so, I mean, it is harder for, when you are a great team, it is a little bit harder for any rookie that comes in to have the same impact versus if they were on a bad team and they instantly become one of the best players on the team. So, I mean, the Chiefs do have some solid depth that, maybe early in the season can start or take a lot of those reps as the players develop. But that's also a good thing for those guys who can, we can be a little bit more patient with some of them.
Well, that's going to be kind of and I'm thinking on the defensive side of the ball,
Yes.
Bags, he prefers to play veterans.
Yeah.
We even saw that with Bolton. That Hitchens kept getting those snaps, even though we saw flashes of what Bolton was doing. And then finally, and I get it, right? It's got to be a trust that's developed there. There's got to be an understanding. There's got to be, that experience that comes with it. But if two of our first four picks in those first two rounds that you're talking about are the Chiefs willing to play those guys, especially on the defensive side, and maybe even on the offense? I don't see a rookie wide receiver coming in and making an impact. Not a significant one in year one. I mean, Tyreek didn't. When Tyreek came in, he was special teams and he was gadget guy, and then once he gained that trust, and I don't even remember what our receiving core was made up before Tyreek was there. So I don't even know who he wasn't beating out that Alex Smith was throwing to. So, Dwayne Bowe, I was like, I can't even remember, but that's crazy. So
those were the dark ages.
Yes. Yeah. So are the Chiefs willing to play rookies?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it depends on the position. I mean, Creed Humphrey started all season last year on the offensive line as a center. And sometimes that can be hard just because of the responsibilities that the center has on the offensive line.
Even there as well.
Yeah. Smith was there.
But the line is a little different.
Yeah. So that's, the wide receivers, especially in Andy's offense, there's just so much that they have to learn compared to other teams. They have to learn all the different positions and, all the nuance that comes with the different routes and how they complement each other. The different positionings and all the motions that they throw in there. And, so yeah, definitely wouldn't be surprised if even drafting a wide receiver that he doesn't get a whole lot of playing time until a little bit later.
It's the Chiefs must see something in Josh Gordon. They're bringing him back. So
yeah,
I hope that you trust Andy, right? There must be something that they're seeing in practice and things like that. But
well, I think he's a good example of that. And I don't think it's obviously not the same situation that it was with Le'Veon Bell and LaShawn McCoy, two veterans that the Chiefs brought in late that had really successful careers, and they thought they could squeeze some juice out of them at the end, and ended up healthy scratching them for the playoffs or for a lot of the games towards the end of the season, and let them go as soon as the season was over. But Josh Gordon, they scratched him a couple times at the end of the year, but the fact that they wanted to bring him back, obviously they still think that he has something to give. And I don't want to get my hopes up or anything. I'm really not. Like, I don't have really expectations for him at all, but he's built like a number one receiver. So if they could squeeze something out of him, he could fill a certain role. If not, obviously he's not going to be a number one, but he fits a positional role there that could help the Chiefs offense. So my list of positional needs is almost identical to yours. I don't know if we agree or not on how important each of these are on the list, and I haven't really thought too much about it, but I would say, just like you, the edge rushing, pass rush is the most important for the Chiefs, just because they haven't had it over the last couple of years. And I think that's one of the most frustrating things about the Chiefs, is that they've given big money to Chris Jones and Frank Clark, and they just haven't been able to have consistent success in the pass rush. There have been games where Chris Jones has taken over. They played really well the first time against the Bengals. They took Burrow's down. I don't know if it was 7. It was either 7 or 10. They took him down a lot. But then they just don't show up in some of the bigger games. And it really hurts the Chiefs. And when you have so much moving around in the secondary, you really need to have a pass rush to give them a buffer and give them some support. So I think that's going to be a big one. And I think that's what it looks like, that, a lot of the national experts are leaning towards, a pass rusher late in the first round. So, I think for sure the Chiefs are going to be targeting that position. There's still a couple free agents that are open. Melvin Ingram's still out there. He could come back. Jadeveon Clowney, Trey Flowers. There's some older veterans that could come in and could potentially help on a limited snap basis. Just to get after the quarterback and see if they can cause some havoc, especially when you do have Frank Clark and Chris Jones. I don't think you need another number one pass rusher. You don't need Von Miller to come in and start dominating the game, because you just need somebody who can take advantage of the offensive protection when they're focusing on Chris Jones and Frank Clark.
Well, we probably do need that dominant one, because they're not going to be focusing on Clark. it'll be whoever else is out there. So
yeah,
we need Clark to be able to step up when the line is worried about Chris Jones and that X guy.
Yeah, that's definitely that's just a given. I think coming into this year, Frank Clark has to play well.
Well,
and
I think
this is last year, so
yeah. Even if he wasn't horrible last year.
No,
he wasn't. I mean, he
was better last year than the last couple of years.
Yes, but he's not getting the pass rush that we anticipated and that he was getting paid for.
Right.
He's just a solid DN, which I'm good with. As part of that rotation there, I think he's good. We just need somebody on the other side that's creating some havoc.
Yeah. And then, I mean, we talked about the receivers a lot. Couple free agents that are still out there: Julio Jones, Miles Boykin. He was a receiver for the Ravens. I think this is his 3rd or 4th year in the league, and he was a pretty highly drafted wide receiver. So, if they kind of want to go cheap, but still want to get some veteran wide receivers in there, those are some players that they could potentially go after, and they're both kind of bigger wide receivers that might be able to fit kind of that X position that they would be looking to to fill on the offensive side of the ball. Yeah, and I think a third safety is going to be really important, because I mean, we talked about Sorensen leaving and obviously Matthew leaving, but they played with 3 safeties a lot last year, and Spags really likes to do that. Like, again, with the versatility of, if a safety can play in the box and in the slot, and up high, I mean, the different pressures that they can create. The quarterback doesn't know if a safety is in the slot, if he's covering the guy or if he's going to be blitzing, and he's going to be getting there a lot quicker than a linebacker would be. So, I'm really curious to see who they could bring in for that third safety position. Terrell Edmonds, he's a safety that just got released by the Steelers. He was a 1st-round pick, and he's more of a box safety, so he's not as solid in coverage as you'd hope. But he's a player that's out there that's really young that could come in and contribute. So those are just some players that I looked at that if we didn't want to address it in the draft, or we didn't have the patience to wait for some of these players to develop, that we could bring in for a year or 2, or just kind of give them opportunities to earn a role on the team. But going into the draft, I think we should probably, we're running out of time, so we'll probably just cover the first round, just because that's where all the intrigue is. And I mean, the later rounds are a little bit more straightforward. It's mostly just, I mean, we trust Veach for one to make the right picks later in the draft. And the chances of them keeping all of those picks are pretty slim, especially in the later rounds, because they end up packaging them to move up or move back, and it's just going to be all over the place. So I think it'll just be more fun too, just to talk about and kind of think about what the different options are for Veach with this first round. We haven't heard anything. It's a week before the draft. And at this time last year, the Chiefs were trading their first round pick for Orlando Brown.
On this date.
Yeah.
Or I think it was on the 23rd, I think, actually. Because 2 years in a row, they did it on the same. Frank Clark the year before, prior, and then Orlando. So I don't know if you saw Brett Veach's press conference today. One of the reporters asked them about that. In the previous two, you made big moves, and first thing was out of Veach's mouth was something to the effect that, yeah, we're getting Debo. So obviously that was a joke, but yeah, it's I'm to the point now is I don't even know who they're going to draft. You just don't know, because they have so many draft picks to choose from. They might move up, they might move back, they might trade somebody for an existing veteran, or they might totally get all 12, bring in 12 new bodies, which I would be excited about any of them. Just what you said is, I'm curious is, in those first 4 picks, if all things being the same, are those first 4 going to be impactful players? Are they going to be starters? Are they going to be better than whatever? I don't even care what position it is, right? If they're able to improve in a role, if they're able to, supplant, I don't even know who they would supplant. Maybe there's a right tackle out there, and you don't have to worry about Niang coming back, or, I don't want to see them draft a running back in the first round.
No, absolutely not.
But if they do, I want them to gain 1,800 yards on the ground. But yeah, I like you said, I just want to see them draft impactful players that are going to play right now and make the Chiefs better, which is weird because we haven't seen that.
Yeah, and I wonder if Veach, if that's just who he is, the last two years trading that first round pick for a proven player, or who he thought was a proven player. And we have mixed success with both of those picks. Frank Clark, I think most people agree, didn't pan out, especially with the contract that they gave him.
Yep.
And then Orlando Brown struggled at the beginning of the season, finished strong, but still haven't got the contract out. So if we don't sign him to a long-term deal, then that was a lot to pay for 1 year or 2 years of a starting left tackle, and then they're back to square one trying to find one. So I wonder if those 2 moves had made him more hesitant now to go out and make those picks, or if that's just who he is, and if he sees that, if he feels like he has the right player that he can go make that pick, then he'll trade his first round pick and go get that veteran. And he has the flexibility now that he can do it with 2 first round picks. So maybe they trade one, and then, make a pick at 30, or so there's so many options. And that's why it's so intriguing. And, leading up to the draft each day that there could be something where the Chiefs make a move and it shakes up the first round. You mentioned Deebo Samuel. He's a wide receiver that a lot of people are talking about, who's, due for a good sized wide receiver contract. He's young. He's versatile in all the different things that he can do, that he's done for the 49ers. And
yeah. Well, we can have that discussion. Because how was he before this past season?
Yeah, I think he was just a young receiver that was kind of gadgety, and he struggled with injury, I think his first year. So, I mean, that's just kind of the risk that you run. So,
yeah, I wouldn't be giving him a big contract.
right.
I mean, it's if you're not going to pay Tyreek that, there's nobody I'm paying that for.
Yeah, but I think that's something that, I mean, because a couple of weeks ago it was DK Metcalf. Let's trade for DK Metcalf, and I mean, I don't have a problem with trading for an elite, like a great receiver, because I don't think either him, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuels they're not Tyreek Hill, they're not Devontae Adams, so they're not going to get paid like them. And the Chiefs were willing to pay.
They may think they are.
Okay,
all right.
They all have the same.
Problem is they all have the same agent too. He's cornered the market.
Yeah, well, if somebody makes more than Tyreek Hill, he's going to want to get paid again. So, well, yeah. I mean, the Chiefs, you mentioned earlier, they were willing to pay him a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they were, they just didn't want to pay that much money for a wide receiver. They might still be open to paying that much money if they feel like the guy is worth it. But
I don't know that there would be very many that are worth that with what Tyreek had done, right? You knew what you were going to get with Tyreek. We don't know what you're going to get with McLaurin. You don't know what you're going to get with Samuels, right? So
yeah, I think it's just
it's Mahomes has got to make those receivers better.
Right.
He can't. We go back to quarterback makes the receiver. Although Samuel did well, so it wasn't Garoppolo that made him; it was Shanahan that made him. So,
yeah. So I don't know. I'm a big Terry McLaurin fan, and I think he would do really well with the Chiefs. But like you said, do they really want to spend those resources? Do they need to continue to support Mahomes now that he's making this much money and still kind of neglect or take resources away that could be going to the defense? Which would help the Chiefs more? And like you pointed out with Brady and Manning, they both, well, definitely the Patriots, they used a lot of their money and resources on the defensive side of the ball for most of Tom Brady's career. The Chiefs or the Colts, they definitely loaded up on the offensive side of the ball for most of their time. But yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see, where the Chiefs prioritize their resources and how they want to build the team. I think you and I would probably suggest that they focus more now on the defense and just, hope that Mahomes is at that level of Brady and Manning that he can just make the playmakers better around him. So
yeah, agreed. That's what I would like to see, because then that creates the consistent opportunity to succeed. If Mahomes can work with make the players around him that much better, and really there's no reason this offensive line should be awesome this year. So he should be comfortable standing there in the pocket or whatever he's doing. And so he's just got to do his thing and make the receivers better. I would feel much better. I would rather put the onus on Mahomes to make the offense work than get Deebo Samuel and wonder what is going to happen on the defensive side. I mean, it's not going to be, if you were going to bring him here, that offense is still not going to be better than what it was with Tyreek. Right. There's no, unless you're bringing Devontae Adams or, yeah, that's it. Right. You're not upgrading over Tyreek.
Right.
So we've got to upgrade our defense. And I would love to see 4 defensive starters over there that are impactful. I mean, give me a couple of Micah Parsons. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. I'm sure every NFL team is thinking the same thing. Yeah. And like we kind of mentioned before, and, it's a possibility. I mean, Veach shot down moving into the top 10 in his press conference, but
we don't necessarily believe him. So.
right. But I mean, just looking at the trade charts that the NFL teams use, based if they traded the 2 first round picks, they could get, I think I saw as high as 11. So, I mean, obviously it depends on who's sitting there at 11 and if they're wanting to trade back or if they have somebody there that they really want. So, but in that range, and we talked about how we might be a little bit concerned that if players are going to be able to contribute at a starting level immediately, and there's not going to be many players that can do that on the Chiefs. They'd have to be great prospects that you can only find really at the early on in the draft that can contribute from day one and become one of the best players. So, if they want to make a move up to try to get one of the elite pass rushers, well, elite for this class, that's an option that they're going to have. If there's somebody that they really believe can be a future Pro Bowler that they can move up and grab, then they have that chance. So that'll be interesting to see if they want to move up and take, kind of a star, or if they want to sit there and, hit doubles instead of the home run. And
but with 12 picks, you have a better opportunity to get a few more right.
Yeah.
Right. It's like,
yeah. So, I mean, yeah, they would have to know that's their guy to move up for him. And you just have to trust their scouting and in there. So,
but still, even that, right? Well, yeah. I mean, it better be a home run, because you could fix a lot of holes over the next couple of years with 12 picks. Right. I mean, and then 2 more, and then you got 2 extra ones next year. It's because, if we have the same successful season, we're going to be picking in late in the first round anyway. So I think, and maybe you can kind of wrap it up with this, with your thoughts is, for the Chiefs window to truly be there for the next couple of years while Mahomes is here, this draft pick or this year's draft could make a significant impact on the success of the team. That we could point to this time frame to say, hey, this, all of those picks as they've panned out, or majority of them or whatever, or made impact over the next 2, 3, 4 years, versus if they don't pan out and we've given up Mahomes, given up Tyreek, and it goes a different direction. I think either way, we can point to either this draft being a great success or the beginning of mediocrity.
Yeah. And the Chiefs will always be competitive with Mahomes, but like we talked about earlier, with the rise of so many teams, especially in the AFC, it's going to be so competitive for the next 10 years with all these young quarterbacks, Burrow, Allen, see if Lawrence can get it figured out, but Herbert, there's going to be a lot of receivers on this side. So, and then we also talked about, how hard it is to stay at the top when you're losing all your players and you're good. You have to be able to hit on your draft picks. That's the one thing. Even the best teams, they still get draft picks. They're basically free compared to all the other players. So you have to hit on those gimmies, draft pick. You have to hit on those players to keep your team to sustain that success. Because if you're losing your players and you're not replenishing them through the draft, then you're getting worse.
Right.
And so, so this year is a big year, and with how many picks they have, I think it could propel them forward. It could make them potentially better than they've been in the last couple of years. I do wish that this draft was a little stronger, but where there's depth in this draft, that's where the Chiefs need a lot of help. So so there's opportunity in this draft to reload for this season, but also for the, yeah, like you said, for the next 3 or 4 years, have them kind of take over for some of the older players that will eventually have to leave. So
And that lets us know, that would be really curious to see what happens 3 years from now is if we hit on those, what other current teams right now, the Bills, the Ravens, the Chargers, teams that are going to be considered competitors, where are they 3 years from now? If they've had some success, if now they're drafting and they're playing the hard schedule, right? How are they able to maintain that, or are we going to see a fall off? The Bengals, it'll be interesting to see who's a competitor now, but won't be in 3 years.
yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to this draft. Draft is, besides the actual playing of the games, the draft is the best part of NFL. So I'm really excited. And like you said, we have 2 picks on Thursday, which is something we haven't seen since, was it 2007 when they had two first round picks. So yeah, so it's going to be really exciting, and just the potential for the Chiefs to to fill some of these holes and to make a solid run to the AFC Championship game and hopefully the Super Bowl. It's really exciting because this is that time where we can really see what this team will look like in the regular season. So of course we'll do an episode after the draft recapping the Chiefs picks, and then we'll have some short live reactions throughout the draft, just how we felt about the picks and comparing it, what Veach ended up doing and how we were right about how we predicted them. Yeah, so look for those videos on social media. Again, make sure you guys follow us and like us, share us with your friends and other Chiefs fans. So I hope you guys have a great night. Signing off for Dave, I'm Kinloch, and we'll talk to you guys later.